You know what destroys good people? It is not hate. It is not betrayal. It is the moment they realize they were loved only for what they tolerated. And the terrifying part is, most kind people notice it very late. Way too late. They keep giving and giving and giving, hoping somebody will finally say, "Thank you for bleeding for me." But people get used to your suffering. That is the ugly truth. If you forgive too fast, they hurt you faster next time. If you answer every call, they stop respecting your time. If you stay soft with cruel people, they do not admire your heart. They study it, like wolves studying an open wound. Some of you were trained to feel guilty for saying no. So you smile while dying inside. You help while exhausted. You stay loyal to people who secretly enjoy watching you break. And then one night, you sit alone in silence, wondering why nobody saves you the way you save everyone else. Because the world noticed something before you did. You made yourself available for everyone. And people rarely protect what is always easy to reach. There are hearts so pure, they apologize after being destroyed. Can you imagine that? Sorry for feeling pain. Pathetic. No, not pathetic. Just wounded, deeply wounded. But eventually, even the kindest soul learns a terrifying lesson. Mercy without boundaries becomes self-destruction. You know what happens after years of being emotionally available to everyone? Your nervous system stops feeling safe. You start apologizing for things that were never your fault. You overthink small changes in people's voices. You panic when someone becomes distant. Because deep inside, you became addicted to keeping people comfortable, even if it destroys you. That is not kindness anymore. That is fear wearing kindness as a mask. Some people were never loyal to you. They were only loyal to your usefulness, your attention, your emotional labor, your constant presence. And once you stop giving those things, watch how fast their love disappears. Painful, isn't it? To realize you were treasured like a tool, not a soul. I have seen exhausted people still answering messages while crying alone, still helping others while secretly falling apart, still saying it's okay when their chest feels heavy every single night. Nobody talks enough about the anger kind people carry. Oh, it exists. Quiet, hidden, dangerous. Because every swallowed emotion stays somewhere inside the body. Every forced smile, every humiliation you tolerated to keep the peace, every moment you betrayed yourself just to avoid losing someone. And one day, the soul snaps quietly. Not loudly, not dramatically. It simply stops caring the same way. Is that why some people suddenly become distant? Not because they turned evil, but because their heart finally became tired of begging for basic respect. You cannot heal in places where you must constantly abandon yourself to be accepted. Remember that. The world teaches harsh lessons, and one of the harshest is this: if you never protect your kindness, people will consume it until there is nothing left of you. And do you know what is truly tragic? Some people notice your exhaustion and still ask for more. More patience, more understanding, more chances, more pieces of your soul. As if your heart exists only to absorb damage quietly. That is why emotionally tired people become silent. Not because they have nothing to say, but because explaining pain to selfish people feels humiliating after a while. You start seeing patterns. Who only comes back when lonely? Who disappears when you need help? Who enjoys your warmth, but never protects your feelings? And suddenly, the loneliness becomes different, heavier, more mature. You realize you were surrounded by people, yet emotionally abandoned for years. What a cruel little joke. The person who comforted everyone had nobody to collapse into. Listen carefully. Kindness is beautiful. Mercy is beautiful. A soft heart is beautiful. But when you allow people to repeatedly disrespect you in the name of being good, you slowly teach them that your pain has no consequences. And human beings, most human beings, continue behavior that costs them nothing. That is why boundaries matter. Not to hurt others, to protect what is left of you. Because the truth is, a constantly wounded heart eventually changes its personality to survive. It becomes quieter, colder, harder to reach. Not because it stopped loving, but because it finally understood love without self-respect becomes self-betrayal. So if your soul feels tired lately, if your chest feels heavy around certain people, if your kindness feels more like exhaustion than peace, maybe your heart is not asking you to give more. Maybe it is begging you to finally protect it. There are people who will watch your spirit fade and still accuse you of changing. Because they benefited from the version of you that never complained, the version that tolerated everything, the version that kept bleeding quietly just to keep relationships alive. But healing changes people. Pain changes people. Repeated disappointment changes people. Especially the kind ones. Because kind people do not break immediately. No. They endure, and endure, and endure. Until one small moment finally destroys something inside them forever. Not a huge betrayal. Sometimes just another unanswered message. Another humiliation disguised as a joke. Another moment of feeling emotionally invisible. And suddenly, their soul cannot carry it anymore. Funny thing about emotional pain, people only respect it after your personality changes. Not while you are silently suffering. Not while you are begging privately for understanding. No. Only after your warmth disappears. Then they panic. Then they ask, what happened to you? What happened? You got tired. That is what happened. Tired of shrinking yourself so others could feel powerful. Tired of being emotionally mature with emotionally careless people. Tired of calling self-neglect love. Some of you were never too emotional. You were simply carrying too much for too long without support. And eventually the body reacts, the mind reacts, the heart reacts. You stop laughing the same, stop trusting the same, stop speaking with the same softness in your voice. Because suffering quietly changes the nervous system of a human being. It makes them alert, guarded, suspicious of warmth. But listen carefully. Protecting yourself is not becoming cruel. Learning distance is not hatred. And saying enough does not make you evil. It makes you aware. Aware that your soul also deserves loyalty. Your peace also deserves protection. And your heart? Your heart was never created to be everybody's emotional sacrifice. You know what kind people do after being hurt too many times? They become experts at hiding emotional damage. They laugh normally, speak normally, go outside normally, while carrying wars inside their chest that nobody can hear. And the terrifying part is, most people around them never notice. Because kind people were trained to suffer gracefully, to remain polite while breaking, to remain calm while disrespected, to remain available while emotionally starving. And after years of this, their body starts feeling heavy. Their sleep changes. Their silence becomes deeper. Even happiness starts feeling exhausting. Because the soul was never designed to endlessly tolerate emotional disappointment. Some of you confuse self-sacrifice with love. You think enduring pain proves loyalty. You think accepting disrespect makes you mature. No. It only teaches people that your boundaries can be ignored without consequences. And humans repeat what benefits them. That is why selfish people become strangely comfortable around endlessly forgiving hearts. They know you will stay after the apology, stay after the lies, stay after the emotional neglect. And once somebody becomes too sure you will never leave, they stop fearing your absence. That is where the disrespect begins growing quietly. Not all at once, slowly, subtly. A colder tone, less effort, longer silence, less empathy when you are hurting. Until one day, you look around and realize you built a home inside people who never intended to protect you emotionally. What a horrifying realization. To discover you were fighting for connections that survived only because you kept abandoning yourself. And the saddest part? Some of you still blame yourselves for being mistreated. You replay conversations at night, wondering if maybe you were too sensitive, too emotional, too needy. No. You were simply asking emotionally unavailable people for genuine care, and that almost always ends painfully. There comes a stage in emotional exhaustion where the heart stops reacting loudly. No more begging, no more dramatic arguments, no more chasing. Just silence, cold silence. Not because the love disappeared, but because the soul finally became too tired to keep humiliating itself for attention. I think some of the saddest humans alive are those who spent years trying to become easier to love, smaller, quieter, more patient, more understanding, all so people would stop leaving them. But cruel people do not stay because you suffer for them. They stay only while benefiting from you. That is the truth nobody wants to accept. And eventually, the kind person changes, not into a monster, not into a villain, just someone harder to reach emotionally, someone who thinks twice before opening their heart, someone who notices manipulation faster, someone who no longer romanticizes being emotionally exhausted for others. Because pain matures people in ugly ways. You start understanding that constant access to you is a privilege, not a right. That your peace matters too, that your time matters too, that your emotional energy is not public property. And suddenly, you stop answering immediately, stop over-explaining, stop trying to rescue everybody. You become quieter, more observant, more protective of your inner world. And people who benefited from your lack of boundaries, they call this coldness. Of course they do. Boundaries feel offensive to people who enjoyed unlimited access to your soul. But deep down you know the truth. You were never asking for too much. You were asking the wrong people. The wrong people will make your kindness feel embarrassing. The wrong people will make your loyalty feel foolish. The wrong people will drain your spirit, then complain that you changed afterward. So listen carefully now. Protect your softness. Protect your peace. Protect the part of you that still wants to love sincerely. Because this world can turn gentle hearts into emotionally numb ghosts if they are not careful. And sometimes, the strongest thing a wounded soul can say is not, "I hate you." No, it is simply, "I can no longer destroy myself trying to keep you." And after enough disappointment, something strange begins happening inside a person. They stop expecting honesty, stop expecting consistency, stop expecting emotional safety from people. Not because they became negative, but because experience taught them that human beings often protect convenience before feelings. That realization changes the way you look at the world, especially when you spent years loving people sincerely. You begin remembering every moment you ignored your intuition just to keep someone close. Every red flag you renamed misunderstanding. Every sleepless night spent defending people who were quietly damaging your spirit. And eventually, your own memories start haunting you. Not because others hurt you, but because you betrayed yourself trying to keep them. That is the part nobody talks about. The shame. The silent humiliation of realizing how many times you accepted less than you deserved just to avoid feeling abandoned. Human beings will tolerate unbelievable pain just to avoid loneliness. Sometimes they even call it love. But love should not feel like emotional survival every day. Real care does not constantly leave you confused. Real loyalty does not repeatedly make you question your worth. And real connection does not require self-destruction to maintain. Some of you became caretakers because nobody cared for you emotionally when you needed it most. So now you overcompensate. You try saving everybody, fixing everybody, understanding everybody, while secretly wishing somebody would finally notice your pain without needing an explanation first. That loneliness is unbearable sometimes. Being emotionally intelligent in rooms full of emotionally careless people is exhausting beyond words. You notice everything. Every energy shift, every fake smile, every delayed reply, every cold tone hidden behind polite words. And your mind keeps trying to make sense of it all. Until one day, Your heart becomes too tired to keep translating disrespect into excuses. That is when healing truly begins. Not when you become happy. No. When you finally become honest with yourself. Honest about who drains you, who manipulates your empathy, who only appears when needing emotional comfort, who enjoys receiving your warmth while offering almost nothing in return. And once you see those patterns clearly, you cannot unsee them anymore. That changes a person permanently. You stop chasing closure from people committed to misunderstanding you. Stop begging for bare minimum effort. Stop romanticizing emotional crumbs. Because emotionally mature people eventually understand something painful. Closure is not always an apology. Sometimes closure is simply seeing the truth clearly enough to stop hurting yourself willingly. And oh, that truth burns. It burns realizing some people only loved the access they had to you. Your patience, your loyalty, your softness, your constant forgiveness. But the moment you started protecting yourself, they called you difficult, cold, different. Of course they did. People become uncomfortable when they can no longer control your kindness. Listen carefully. There is nothing noble about abandoning your mental peace for people who repeatedly damage it. Nothing noble about tolerating disrespect endlessly. Nothing noble about shrinking your soul just to remain accepted. You deserve relationships where your nervous system can rest, where your presence is valued, where your silence is not punished, where your heart does not constantly feel unsafe. And if somebody only appreciates you when you are overgiving, then they never truly appreciated you at all. They appreciated access. So stop apologizing for protecting your energy. Stop feeling guilty for becoming less available. And stop betraying yourself just because you are afraid of losing people. Because some losses are actually rescues in disguise. After a certain amount of pain, you stop reacting immediately. Not because nothing hurts anymore, but because your soul became tired of proving it was wounded. You realize some people watched you suffer many times and still repeated the behavior. That changes something inside a human being permanently, especially when you love them sincerely. You begin understanding that intentions matter less than patterns. A person can apologize beautifully and still destroy your peace repeatedly. A person can say, "I care about you," while slowly draining the life out of your spirit. And kind people, they ignore patterns too long because they see potential instead of reality. They remember good moments while tolerating unbearable treatment. That is why emotionally exhausted people often isolate themselves later in life. Not because they hate people, no. Because they became terrified of giving their heart to the wrong hands again. And honestly, can you blame them? Some souls were used so gently, they did not even notice the manipulation until years later. Slow manipulation is the worst kind. Not loud enough to expose itself immediately. Just small emotional cuts over time. Small disappointments, small neglect, small disrespect, again and again and again, until your confidence weakens quietly. Your happiness fades quietly. Your personality changes quietly. And one morning you wake up feeling emotionally disconnected from yourself. That is terrifying. Because people always talk about heartbreak, but they rarely talk about self-loss. The horrible feeling of no longer recognizing your own energy, no longer laughing naturally, no longer feeling emotionally safe around anyone. You become careful with every word, every attachment, every expectation. Not because you enjoy distance, but because disappointment trained your nervous system to expect pain. And eventually, you stop trying to convince people to value you correctly. That phase ends. You understand something deeper. People reveal their priorities through consistency, not promises, not emotional speeches, not temporary affection. Consistency. Who checks on you when you disappear? Who protects your feelings when angry? Who speaks gently when you are vulnerable? Who stays kind when there is nothing to gain from you? Those answers reveal everything. And sometimes, the truth hurts because you realize how much energy you wasted trying to earn basic human decency. Some of you gave loyalty to people who only offered convenience in return. You gave depth to shallow hearts, patience to careless minds, understanding to emotionally selfish people. What a painful trade. But maybe your heart needed those lessons, not to become cold, no, to become wiser. To finally understand that protecting your peace is part of self-respect, that not everybody deserves unlimited emotional access to you, that being available every second lowers your value in the eyes of careless people, and that sometimes silence is healthier than explaining your pain to those committed to misunderstanding it. So if your energy changed recently, if you became quieter, more distant, more protective of your emotions, do not hate yourself for it. Your soul is adapting to disappointment, adapting to survival, adapting to truths your younger heart was too innocent to understand. And maybe that sadness you carry now is not weakness. Maybe it is simply the grief of realizing how many times you abandoned yourself trying to keep others comfortable. And the worst part about emotional exhaustion, it happens slowly. So slowly. You barely notice yourself disappearing. One day you are expressive, warm, open-hearted, the type of person who answers with excitement and loves with sincerity. Then life happens. Disappointment happens. People happen. And suddenly, you become quieter than before, more cautious, more emotionally distant. Not because you wanted to change, but because your nervous system became tired of recovering from the same wounds repeatedly. You know what repeated emotional pain does to a person? It teaches them to hide their needs, to pretend they are okay, to stop expecting support from others. That is why some of the strongest looking people are actually the most emotionally starved. They learned that vulnerability often attracts neglect instead of comfort. Cruel little world, isn't it? People say, communicate your feelings. But many hearts tried that already and got ignored, dismissed, mocked, or treated like burdens afterward. So eventually, they stop speaking. Not because they have no emotions, because speaking stopped feeling safe. And once silence becomes safer than honesty, something inside the soul changes deeply. You stop asking for reassurance. Stop asking for effort. Stop asking people to care correctly. You just observe, quietly. That observation phase hurts more than people realize, because you begin seeing who truly values you and who only values your usefulness. Who remembers you when you are absent, who notices your sadness without needing performance, who checks on you without convenience attached to it. And honestly, those people are rare, very rare. Some people only love versions of you that are easy to consume, the cheerful version, the available version, the endlessly understanding version. But the moment you become emotionally tired, they disappear emotionally. That reveals everything. Real love becomes gentler when you are struggling. Fake love becomes irritated. Real care protects your nervous system. Fake care demands access to you regardless of your exhaustion. And emotionally intelligent people notice these differences eventually. That is why they become selective later in life. Not arrogant, selective. Because peace becomes more important than attention, more important than temporary affection, more important than being constantly surrounded by people. You begin craving sincerity more than excitement, depth more than popularity, calmness more than emotional chaos. And maybe that is maturity, realizing not every connection deserves your full emotional investment. Realizing some people are only temporary lessons disguised as attachments, painful lessons too. Lessons that cost sleep, confidence, trust, sometimes even your personality for a while. But eventually you stop mourning people the same way. You start mourning the version of yourself that tolerated too much. The version that accepted emotional crumbs and called them love. The version that kept trying harder while being quietly neglected. That realization can break a person emotionally, because you finally understand you were not difficult to love. You were simply giving your heart to emotionally careless hands. And careless hands destroy beautiful things without even noticing. So stop blaming yourself for becoming guarded. A heart that survives repeated disappointment naturally becomes more protective. That is not bitterness. That is wisdom born from pain. And one day, you will understand why certain losses hurt so much. Not because those people were extraordinary, but because you kept sacrificing pieces of yourself to keep them, and losing them forced you to finally face the damage you ignored for years. Sometimes I think the kindest people are the most dangerous, once they finally detach emotionally. Because they did not become cold overnight, no. They arrived there through disappointment, through neglect, through carrying emotions nobody helped them carry. And every silent heartbreak added another wall around their soul. That is why when a deeply patient person finally gives up, they rarely return the same way again. People mistake silence for weakness, until the silence stops needing them completely. That is when panic begins. Suddenly people notice your absence. Suddenly they remember your value. Suddenly they miss the warmth they once ignored. Strange, isn't it? How some humans only appreciate light after living in darkness for a while. But by then, sometimes the heart already closed the door quietly. You know what repeated emotional pain teaches a person? How to emotionally disappear while still physically present. They smile less sincerely, talk less passionately, respond with less energy. Not because they became cruel, because survival forced them to reduce emotional attachment. And honestly, many exhausted souls are not asking for much anymore. Not perfection, not endless attention, just honesty, consistency, gentleness, basic emotional safety. Yet even those small things became rare. That is what makes modern loneliness feel so heavy. Some people have not felt emotionally understood in years. Years. Imagine carrying sadness that long while pretending to function normally every day. Imagine laughing with people who have no idea how tired your soul feels. That kind of pain changes your eyes, changes your energy, changes the way you connect with the world. Eventually, you stop trying to force closeness. You stop chasing explanations. Stop begging people to communicate properly. Because mature pain teaches an exhausting lesson. If somebody truly values your heart, you will not need to constantly convince them to handle it carefully. The right people do not repeatedly make you feel emotionally unsafe. They do not leave you confused every night. They do not disappear whenever responsibility appears. And once you understand that, you become calmer. Not happier immediately, but calmer. Because you stop personalizing other people's emotional immaturity. You stop asking, "What is wrong with me?" and start asking, "Why did I normalize being treated this way for so long?" That question changes everything. Because healing begins the moment self-respect becomes stronger than attachment. The moment peace becomes more important than temporary affection. The moment your fear of loneliness becomes smaller than your fear of self-betrayal. And oh, that transformation terrifies people who benefited from your old softness. The old version of you answered instantly, forgave instantly, stayed accessible endlessly. The new version observes first, protects energy first, chooses carefully. And suddenly, people accuse you of changing, of becoming distant, hard to reach. Good. Some doors are supposed to become harder to open after being entered carelessly too many times. Never regret learning emotional boundaries. Never regret protecting your peace. And never feel guilty for becoming unavailable to people who only remembered your value when your warmth started disappearing. Because the deepest form of self-respect is finally refusing to set yourself on fire just to keep others emotionally comfortable. There is a specific sadness that comes from realizing you are emotionally loyal to people who were only temporarily attached to you. That realization does not break the heart immediately, it poisons it slowly. You begin remembering conversations differently, moments differently, promises differently. And suddenly, everything starts making painful sense. Why you always felt anxious around them. Why your chest became heavy after certain interactions. Why you constantly felt the need to earn basic care. Because deep down, your spirit already knew what your attachment refused to accept. Some people loved convenience more than connection. That is why emotionally drained people often become addicted to solitude afterward. Not because isolation feels amazing, no. Because peace feels unfamiliar after years of emotional chaos. And honestly, silence becomes beautiful once you realize how exhausting forced relationships can be. No manipulation, no mixed signals, no emotional guessing games, just quiet. Do you know how tired a soul must become before loneliness starts feeling safer than attachment? very tired, dangerously tired. Some hearts reached a point where they no longer fear being alone. They fear being emotionally consumed again. Fear giving everything only to feel invisible afterward. Fear becoming emotionally available to people who secretly enjoy their softness but never protect it. That fear changes the way a person loves. They hesitate more, analyze more, pull away faster when disrespected, not because they became heartless, because experience taught them how expensive unguarded kindness can become. And maybe that is the cruelest lesson life teaches gentle people, that not everyone deserves access to the deepest parts of them. Some people enter your life only to consume your energy, your patience, your forgiveness, your emotional stability, then leave once you become too exhausted to continue feeding them emotionally. And the terrifying thing is, kind people often blame themselves afterward. They sit alone replaying memories, wondering what they could have done differently. No, stop that. You cannot heal relationships built on your constant self-sacrifice. You cannot force emotionally selfish people to suddenly value empathy. And you cannot save connections that survive only when you abandon yourself repeatedly. That truth hurts, because it forces you to let go of fantasies that if you loved harder, suffered quieter, waited longer, people would finally treat you correctly. But some people only learn your value through absence, only through distance, only after your energy disappears from their life completely. Funny little creatures, human beings. They ignore water until thirst begins choking them. Still, do not let pain turn you cruel. Let it turn you wise. There is a difference. Wisdom protects peace. Cruelty destroys innocence. And your softness, despite everything, is still something beautiful. It simply needs boundaries now. Strong boundaries. Because a heart without boundaries becomes public territory for emotionally careless people. Anyone enters. Anyone leaves damage. Anyone takes pieces of you without responsibility. But once you learn emotional discipline, everything changes. You stop over-explaining yourself. Stop chasing closure endlessly. Stop trying to rescue people committed to misunderstanding you. And slowly, your energy returns. Your sleep improves. Your mind quiets down. Your spirit breathes again. Not because life suddenly became perfect, but because you finally stopped handing your peace to unstable hands. That is the moment healing truly begins. The moment your soul says, I deserve relationships that do not require constant emotional survival. And believe me, once a wounded heart finally learns that lesson deeply, it never loves recklessly the same way again. And maybe the reason you feel emotionally exhausted lately is because your soul has been fighting battles your mouth never talks about. Some pain never becomes words. It becomes insomnia, overthinking, emotional numbness. You tell people, I'm just tired, while secretly feeling disconnected from everything. That happens when a person spends too much time ignoring their own emotional wounds just to keep functioning. Especially kind people. They normalize suffering frighteningly well. They continue showing up for others while mentally collapsing. Continue giving reassurance while desperately needing reassurance themselves. Continue loving people who stopped valuing them a long time ago. And eventually, their body begins carrying sadness their smile can no longer hide. That heavy silence, that emotional fatigue, that strange emptiness after social interaction. The soul screams quietly sometimes. You know what hurts the most? Realizing how many times you begged for bare minimum care without saying the words directly. You hoped people would notice. Notice your exhaustion. Notice your silence. Notice the pain hidden behind your calmness. But many people only notice what affects them personally. That truth is brutal. So one day, you stop expecting emotional rescue completely. You become your own comfort, your own listener, your own safe place. And while that creates strength, it also creates loneliness. Because independent hearts often suffer silently. They stop reaching out, stop explaining, stop believing anyone would truly understand anyway. That is why some people suddenly disappear emotionally. Not for attention, not to manipulate, but because they are trying to survive internally without collapsing publicly. Most humans see distance and assume arrogance. Very few recognize exhaustion. Some people are not becoming cold. They are becoming careful. Careful with attachment. Careful with trust. Careful with how much of themselves they give away now. Because emotional pain changes the nervous system of a human being. After enough disappointment, the heart stops opening automatically. You begin studying energy differently. Studying tone differently, studying effort differently. You notice who disappears when you are no longer useful, who becomes irritated when you stop overgiving, who only remembers your existence when they need emotional comfort from you. And honestly, that awareness hurts. It hurts realizing how many relationships survived only because you kept sacrificing your own peace to maintain them. What an exhausting way to live. Always understanding others, always forgiving first, always carrying emotional weight nobody notices. Meanwhile, your own heart slowly starves in silence. That is why emotionally tired people become addicted to solitude sometimes. Not because they hate humans, but because peace feels safer than emotional confusion, safer than mixed signals, safer than feeling invisible around people who claim to care. And eventually, you stop forcing closeness, stop chasing explanations, stop begging people to communicate properly, because mature pain teaches you something very important. If somebody genuinely values your heart, you will not constantly feel emotionally unsafe around them. Real care protects your nervous system. Real love does not repeatedly make you question your worth. Real loyalty does not disappear the moment you become emotionally exhausted. So if your heart feels different now, if you became quieter, slower to trust, harder to emotionally access, do not panic. Pain changes people, but awareness rebuilds them wiser. You are not required to destroy your peace proving your loyalty anymore. Not every relationship deserves unlimited patience. Not every person deserves endless chances. And not every goodbye is a tragedy. Sometimes distance is the first healthy decision a wounded soul has made in years. Because healing begins when self-respect finally becomes louder than emotional attachment. Before pain arrives, you already built it a room. You gave it a chair. You fed it thoughts. You let it sit like an honored guest. And when the real wound touched you, you cried like life betrayed you twice. No, life hit you once. Your mind hit you first. Listen carefully. Most people do not lose sleep because of what happened. They lose sleep because of the movie they replay, decorating it with fear. A message not answered becomes rejection. A silence becomes hatred. A delay becomes disaster. The mind is a theater selling tickets to tragedies that never arrived. You are not weak because you feel pain. You become weak when you volunteer for pain before God has written that moment into your day. Faith is not pretending nothing hurts. Faith is refusing to worship fear. Do what is in your hands, then leave unseen to God. Tonight, stop rehearsing funerals for dreams breathing. Stop punishing yourself for talks that never happened. Stop bleeding where nobody touched you. Funny, isn't it? You survived, but thoughts ambush you in bed. Wake up. Pain deserves its moment, not your whole life. Feel it when it comes, learn when it leaves. Do not bow twice. Here is the ugly truth nobody likes to touch. You keep calling it healing, but some nights you reopen the wound to check if it still obeys you. You replay the sentence, you replay the face, you replay when your chest became heavy, as if pain will give you a new answer if you torture it long enough. Listen. There is a difference between learning from pain and becoming loyal to it. Learning takes the lesson and walks away. Loyalty builds a shrine. You protect sadness like proof that what happened mattered. But pain is not your identity. It is a visitor. Brutal, yes, but still a visitor. The mind loves drama. It says, what if they come back? What if they never do? What if you are not enough? What if this is the end? Stop. Questions are not doors. They are traps. Put your hand on what is real. Your breath is real. This room is real. God's mercy is real. Tomorrow is not real yet. You are allowed to be hurt. You are allowed to be tired. But you are not allowed to let fear become your master. Do not suffer in advance for people who may never leave. Do not mourn a failure that has not happened. Do not bury yourself because your mind drew a grave. You think you are preparing for the worst, but sometimes you practice despair. Come back. Come back to this breath. Come back to what God placed in your hands now. Pray one prayer. Take one honest step. Not years, not the whole future. One step. When pain arrives, if it arrives, you face it standing. Not broken, not defeated. Standing. Do not confuse peace with weakness. Peace is not smiling while your mind burns the house. Peace is discipline. Peace is telling imagination enough. Sit down. Be quiet. You do not rule me tonight. The future looks like a monster when you stare from a tired body. A small problem becomes a verdict. A delay becomes abandonment. One mistake becomes destiny. Fear needs no chains. It only needs your attention. Attention is worship in disguise. What you keep staring at becomes bigger. What you keep feeding becomes louder. What you rehearse becomes normal inside you. That is why calm feels suspicious. Calm feels like quiet before punishment. No, that is exhaustion speaking loudly. Learn the violence of stopping a thought before it grows teeth. No, I will not imagine betrayal tonight. No, I will not carry next month on my spine. No, I will not turn silence into a sentence against my soul. Some battles belong to their appointed hour. When that hour comes, God will give you breath for that hour, not before it, not in the fake courtroom your mind made. You keep asking for strength for future pain, then wonder why today feels empty. Strength is given for reality, not ghosts. When the thought returns, do not wrestle it like a hero. Name it. That is fear. That is memory. That is not prophecy. Let it pass without building it a throne. You can feel the storm without becoming the storm. You can hear the whisper without signing the contract. Come back to ground. Come back to your hands. Come back to water on your face, air in your lungs. One prayer. You are asked not to kneel when fear speaks. Stand up inside yourself. Not loudly, not for them, for you. For the soul God trusted you with. Imagine losing your life to things that never happened. No more. If pain comes, meet it once. If loss comes, grieve it once. If disappointment comes, learn. Tonight, do not open the door to shadows called tomorrow. Understand this. Not every thought deserves a trial. Some thoughts enter dressed like truth, but they are only tiredness with a deeper voice. You have been awake too long. You carried too much. You stared at one closed door until life looked locked. A tired soul turns whispers into verdicts. It hears silence and says, "They hate me." It feels failure and says, "I am finished." It sees a painful night and says, "This is my future." Dramatic mind, always painting the end before God finished the page. Be careful with stories you tell yourself when wounded. Pain is a bad narrator. Fear is a liar with confidence. Regret edits the past until good intentions look guilty. That is why you do not make permanent decisions in temporary darkness. Let the storm speak. Let your chest feel heavy. Let the tear come. You are human, not stone. But after the feeling rises, do not hand it the pen. Do not let sadness write your identity. Do not let one hard chapter rename the book. You say, "What if I cannot handle it?" Listen, you handled days you thought would break you. You walked through rooms with a crushed chest and still answered people. You smiled when your mind bled. You prayed with words almost falling apart. You are not as fragile as fear says. Fear sells weakness like luxury. It says, stay in bed, imagine disaster, call it protection. No, that's not protection. That is a cage with soft pillows. Get up from the imaginary funeral. Wash tomorrow's dust from your face. Stop attending tragedies before they exist. You owe reality attention. You owe your soul mercy. You owe God trust. One breath, one step, one honest action. That is all. Leave the unseen where it belongs, behind the curtain, in the hands of the one who sees more than you can fear. And if pain comes later, let it find you rested. Let it find you faithful. Let it find you standing, not destroyed by shadows. Because a wound can hurt once, but imagination can make a prison. Tonight, you are not solving life. You are returning to the present. You are taking back the room in your chest. You are telling fear you may knock, but you cannot live here. And listen to me now. The present is not boring. The present is where power hides. Fear keeps dragging you into tomorrow because tomorrow cannot defend itself. Tomorrow cannot say, I am not that monster. Tomorrow cannot correct your imagination. So your mind paints it black, then asks you to bow. But today can answer back. Today says, look at your hands. They still move. Look at your lungs. They still rise. Look at your heart. It is tired, yes, but it is not dead. You call yourself finished while breathing like evidence against your own lie. You keep waiting for a perfect sign before you stop panicking. No, sometimes the sign is that you are still here after everything you thought would end you. Sometimes mercy does not arrive as thunder. Sometimes it arrives as another morning, another chance, another small ability to stand up. Do not make your mind a prophet of disaster. It is not holy because it is loud. It is not wisdom because it scares you. Some thoughts are just old wounds wearing a judge's coat. They point at you and say, guilty. Guilty for trusting. Guilty for loving. Guilty for failing. Guilty for being human. Enough. You are allowed to learn without hating yourself. You are allowed to remember without returning to the fire. You are allowed to protect your peace without becoming cruel. God knows the part of you that tried. God knows the words you swallowed. God knows the nights you did not tell anyone about. And still you sit there believing fear has the final speech. Fear is a bad lawyer. It argues with shadows. It shows fake evidence. It calls anxiety a witness. Then it asks for your whole life as payment. Do not pay. Do not pay with your sleep. Do not pay with your health. Do not pay with your prayer. Do not pay with the smile you might need tomorrow. The debt is false. The punishment is not from God. It is from a mind trained to expect pain before mercy. I know it feels safer to expect the worst. You think disappointment will hurt less if you meet it early, but it does not hurt less. It only hurts twice. Once in imagination, once in reality, if it even comes. And many times it never comes. You just grow older inside a storm that passed outside your window. Come back. Not dramatically, not with some heroic speech. Just come back. Drink water. Breathe. Sit straight. Wash your face. Walk away if you must. Pray if your chest is shaking. Do the real thing. The small thing. The thing fear hates because it proves you are not trapped. You do not defeat fear by screaming at it forever. You defeat it by refusing to organize your life around its lies. You let it speak, then you act according to truth. You let it knock, then you do not open. You let it show 10 endings, then choose one step, and when your mind says, "What if everything falls apart?" God remains. God remains. Not as decoration in a sentence. Not as a word you throw at fear so people think you are strong. No. As the ground beneath the ground. The one who saw you before they misunderstood you. The one who knew the wound before you had language for it. That is why you do not need to predict every disaster to feel safe. Safety is not knowing every door that might close. Safety is knowing you will not be abandoned when one closes. You keep asking, what if I lose? What if I break? What if I fall? And somehow you forget the question that saved you before. What if God carries me again? You survive things you once rehearsed as endings. Remember that. Not to worship pain, but to expose fear as a fraud. It promised death, and you are still breathing. It promised shame, and God still covered you. It promised emptiness, and here you are. Damaged, yes, but still able to hear truth. Do not let anxiety become your religion. Do not let fear decide what God can do. Do not put imagination above mercy. You are not seeing the full map. You are seeing one dark corner and calling it the whole world. Careful. A tired mind can insult hope and call it realism. Realism is not despair. Realism says life can hurt and God can heal. People can leave and you can still stand. Doors can close and provision can come from a place you did not calculate. Realism is not lying in bed choking on a future that has not touched you. Look at the performance fear gives you. The music, the lights, the tragic ending, the imaginary funeral. It deserves an award, really. But you do not have to clap. You do not have to sit in the audience of your own destruction. Leave the theater. Leave it. Walk out while the fake disaster is still talking. Walk out before it sells you another scene. Walk out before your body believes what your mind invented. I know. Sometimes it feels impossible. The chest tightens. The stomach drops. The room becomes smaller. You try to pray, but the words come broken. You try to sleep, but thoughts sit on your ribs. You whisper, "I cannot do this." Then do not do the whole life. Do this minute, this one. Breathe through this one. One breath is obedience when panic wants worship. One prayer is resistance when fear wants your tongue. One small step is rebellion against the lie that you are finished. Do not wait until you feel fearless to move. Fearless is not the price of movement. Faith moves with a shaking hand. Faith walks with wet eyes. Faith says, "I do not see the road, but I refuse to build a grave in my imagination." And please, stop calling your torture intelligence. Stop saying, "I just think deeply." No. Sometimes you are not thinking deeply. You are digging deeply. Digging into old pain. Digging into possible humiliation. Digging into tomorrow until you bury today alive. Deep enough, and even daylight looks like a threat. Come back to what is clean. Your next honest action. Your next prayer. Your next boundary. Your next glass of water. Your next silence, if speaking will make you bleed again. Real life is built in small, obedient steps, not in imaginary catastrophes. You are allowed to be afraid. Let no one shame you for trembling. Even brave people shake. Even strong people wake at night. Even faithful hearts sometimes whisper, "Why is this heavy?" But fear can sit in the room without becoming king. Pain can knock without receiving the keys. Do not hand over the keys. So when the thought comes, meet it at the door. Do not invite it in. Say, "I see you. You are fear. You are not command. You are not revelation. You are not God." Enough. Enough. Not tomorrow. Not after you understand every reason. Not after fear becomes polite. Enough now. Some prisons do not have bars. They have questions. What if? Why me? What next? Who will stay? Who will leave? And every question takes a chair around your chest until your breath has no place to sit. You are not made to carry imaginary funerals and a future that has not even opened its eyes. You are a servant of God, not a servant of every dark possibility. There is humility in admitting, "I do not know." There is power in saying, "I will do what is right now and leave what is hidden where it belongs." Fear hates that sentence. It wants details. It wants contracts. It wants proof that nobody will hurt you again. But life will not give you that contract. People will not give you that guarantee. Still, you must not become cruel just to feel protected. Let the wound teach boundaries, not paranoia. Let disappointment teach wisdom, not bitterness. Let the mistake teach humility, not self-hatred. Pain becomes poison when you refuse to let it finish its lesson. Look at today, not the monster your mind drew. Today, someone you can stop chasing, a prayer you can return to, a habit you can break. Do not underestimate small obedience. Do not wait for a giant miracle while ignoring one honest step. Get up. Move slowly if you must, but move. The body must learn that fear is not the driver. The mind must see evidence you are alive. And when the night comes, do not panic because the thought returned. A returning thought is not a returning destiny. It is noise at the gate. Let it knock. Let it beg. Let it perform. You do not have to open. There is freedom when you stop needing to win every argument inside your head. You can let a thought pass without proving it wrong. You can let a fear scream without screaming back. Maturity is refusing to wrestle a shadow. The mind says, "Remember what happened last time?" And you answer, "I remember, but God brought me through." The mind says, "What if they abandon you?" You answer, "Then God remains." The mind says, "What if you fail?" You answer, "Then I learn and rise." This is discipline. This is a soul trained not to kneel every time fear changes costume. Today it comes as anxiety, tomorrow as regret, another day as suspicion. Same voice, same trap, same hunger for peace. Starve it. Starve it of attention. Starve it of midnight conversations. Starve it of fake scenarios. Starve it of your body shaking for things that may never arrive. Feed what is real instead. Feed prayer. Feed patience. Feed work. Feed silence. Feed trust. I know you wanted life softer. I know you wanted some people cleaner with your heart. I know you wanted the past to knock and apologize. But some pain never apologizes. You heal without its permission. You heal by not rehearsing it every morning. You heal by not making every new person pay for old crime. You heal by not using fear as proof that you are wise. Wisdom protects the heart. Fear locks it in a basement and calls that safety. Safe but suffocating. Untouched but unliving. Protected but buried. No. Come out. Come out of the future you keep dying in. Come out of the memory you keep sleeping inside. Come out of the courtroom where you are always guilty, always late, always not enough. God did not give you this moment so you could worship another moment. Breathe. Feel the air enter. Feel it leave. That is your proof. You are here. You are responsible for here. Not the entire road, not every ending. Here. If pain comes, let it find a person who practiced presence. If loss comes, let it find a person who still knows where to put his forehead, where to place his trust, where to return. If mercy comes, do not be too busy rehearsing disaster. And that is the tragedy nobody sees. Mercy can stand at the door, and you are too busy arguing with an imaginary disaster to hear it knock. A good day arrives, and you do not enter it. You inspect it. You search under it for punishment. You ask, why is it calm? Why is nothing burning? What is coming next? You became suspicious of peace, as if peace is a criminal wearing clean clothes. That is what repeated pain does when you let it become your teacher. It teaches you to flinch before love speaks. It teaches you to prepare an exit in every room with no chase. But listen, survival habits are not always life habits. What protected you in a storm may imprison you when the sky clears. You cannot keep punishing the present for what the past did. The day in front of you is not always the night behind you. And even if some people repeat the same ugliness, you do not have to repeat the same collapse. Strength becomes quiet here, not when you shout, not when you prove everybody wrong. Strength begins when you notice the old panic rising and you do not worship it. You say, I know this feeling. I know this dark room, but I am not moving back in. You are allowed to leave old versions of yourself behind without hating them. That anxious version tried to protect you. That angry version guarded a wound nobody respected. But now you must not let a guard become a jailer. Thank the old self, then walk forward. Do not carry every defense forever. Do not make every quiet person an enemy. Do not make every delay a rejection. Do not make every closed door a curse. Sometimes a closed door is mercy with a hard face. Sometimes God delays what you want because your hands are still shaking from what almost destroyed you. Sometimes He does not give it yet because you would hold it with fear, not gratitude. Do not rush the unseen. Work, pray, heal, become ready. Your mind will not like this. It wants control more than truth. It wants a map before a step. It wants certainty before faith. But faith is not a receipt. Faith is surrender with action. You tie what you can tie. You protect what you can protect. Then you stop pretending you own tomorrow. There is a strange arrogance hidden inside anxiety. Strange. It says, if I think long enough, I can control what only God controls. If I worry hard enough, I can prevent what was never in my hand. No, you are not powerful because you panic. You are exhausted because you forgot your limit. Say it. I have a limit. I do not know everything. I cannot control every heart. I cannot see every road. I cannot guarantee every ending. And that does not make me unsafe. It makes me human. Human means you act with honesty, then release the result. Human means you feel fear, then choose obedience. Human means you remember pain, but you do not let memory become a god. A memory can warn you, but it must not rule you. Take your life back from the warning. Take your sleep back from the prediction. Take your prayer back from the panic. Take your morning back from the ghost of yesterday. You are not here to become a museum of wounds. Cancel the meeting with imaginary betrayal. Cancel the meeting with fake humiliation. Cancel the meeting with future grief. You have real work, real breath, real worship, real healing, real boundaries. And when the chest tightens again, do not call it failure. It is just an old alarm. Let it ring. Let it embarrass itself. Let it scream fire in a room where nothing is burning. You do not have to obey every alarm. Check reality, then return. Return to now. Return to the floor under your feet. Return to the name of God on your tongue. Return to the breath that did not abandon you. Walk out, breathe, pray, begin again. Pain may visit, fear may whisper, the past may knock, but you do not open twice. You do not open twice. You already know what it feels like when fear sits at your table and eats from your peace. You already know the taste of a night wasted on a future that never arrived. So now, when the thought knocks, you do not become rude to yourself. You become firm. Firm does not mean cold. Firm means you stop begging chaos to explain itself. Firm means you stop asking every emotion for permission to live. Some feelings are loud because they are old, not because they are true. Some fear feels holy only because you have repeated it like prayer. But repetition does not make a lie sacred. Tonight, when your mind brings the same picture, look at it like a stranger carrying expired news. Old headlines, same panic, same dramatic weather. You do not have to subscribe to every storm inside you. There is a mercy in limits. You cannot know everything, and that is mercy. You cannot control every person, and that is mercy. You cannot read every hidden intention, and that is mercy. Because if God gave you every unseen detail, your chest would collapse under knowledge not made for human ribs. So stop envying control. Control is not peace. Control is a leash fear puts around your neck while calling itself safety. You pull harder, it tightens harder. You demand certainty, it demands more of your soul. Then you wake up tired, not because life destroyed you, but because you fought a war with fog. Stop fighting fog. Touch what is solid, your duty, your prayer, your body, your next boundary, your next honest apology if you were wrong, your next silence if they only want a reaction. Reality is solid. Fear is smoke with a loud voice. And do not hate yourself because you fell for it before. A person who has been hurt mistakes tension for wisdom. You thought being anxious meant being alert. You thought expecting betrayal meant being mature. But maturity is not expecting blood in every room. Maturity is checking the room, trusting God, then walking without dragging a coffin behind you. Let the past become a teacher, not a landlord. Let it speak its lesson, then make it leave. The wound says, "Remember me." You answer, "I remember, but I will not live there." The scar says, "Protect yourself." You answer, "I will, but I will not become cruel." Because cruelty is fear in armor. Bitterness is pain pretending to be power. Isolation can feel safe, yes, but sometimes it is only fear decorating a cage. God did not save you from one prison so you could build another with your own hands. Open the window. Let air enter places anxiety locked. Let light touch the parts you hid from everyone. Not for attention, not for applause, for life. You can begin small. One message not checked again. One thought not followed. One fake scenario not fed. One prayer made with a shaking mouth. Small victories are not small when the enemy is inside the habit. The mind will say, "This is not enough." It wants a grand ending, a dramatic transformation, thunder in the sky. Always the theater. But healing often enters quietly, like water, like dawn, like a breath you did not notice until you stopped choking. So do not despise quiet progress. If today you panicked for 10 minutes less, that matters. If today you return to God 1 moment sooner, that matters. If today you did not punish yourself for a possibility, that matters. Angels witness what people ignore. And when people misunderstand your calm, let them. Let them call you distant. Let them say you changed. You did change. You stopped offering your nervous system as entertainment. You stopped bleeding to prove you cared. You stopped letting every small silence drag you into a courtroom. Peace will feel strange at first. You will look for the old noise because chaos became familiar. But familiar is not always home. Sometimes familiar is only the place that hurt you repeatedly until you learned its furniture. So when quiet finally comes, do not run back to the noise just because noise knows your name. Do not crawl back into the old storm because peace feels unfamiliar. A cage can feel like home when you have slept there long enough, but comfort is not proof of truth. Sometimes comfort is only repeated damage wearing your scent. You have to learn a new language now. The language of enough rest, enough silence, enough trust, enough not knowing. You have to teach your body that calm does not mean danger is loading. Calm can simply mean God gave you a moment to breathe. But fear will hate that. Fear is addicted to emergencies. It wants sirens in every corner. It wants you checking, refreshing, imagining, measuring, suspecting. It wants you to confuse exhaustion with responsibility. No, responsibility is action. Panic is noise. Act where you can act. Apologize where you were wrong. Leave where your soul is being crushed. Work where laziness is feeding anxiety. Pray where fear is louder than truth. But after you act, stop chewing the same pain like it will become bread. There is nothing holy about destroying yourself in your own thoughts. There is nothing mature about suffering for a possibility. You do not earn protection by imagining tragedy. You do not earn love by fearing abandonment. You do not earn mercy by punishing yourself before life even speaks. Let today be today. Let the night be night. Let tomorrow arrive wearing its real face, not the mask your fear designed. And if tomorrow is hard, then tomorrow will meet a person who did not waste all his strength dying tonight. That is wisdom, not denial, not pretending. Wisdom says, I see the risk, but I will not worship it. I remember the wound, but I will not sleep inside it. I know people can disappoint me, but I will not turn suspicion into my personality. You must stop mistaking tension for protection. A tight chest is not armor. A racing mind is not strategy. A sleepless night is not proof that you care. Sometimes it is just fear clapping for itself in an empty room. Turn the lights on, not outside, inside. Look at the thought and name it. This is fear. This is memory. This is old pain. This is not command. This is not destiny. This is not God. The unseen belongs to God. Leave it there. Stop stealing what your soul cannot carry. Stop dragging tomorrow into your bed, then complaining that the night is heavy. You were given one day at a time because one day is already sacred enough. And maybe part of you is afraid that if you stop worrying, you will be caught off guard. I know. But worrying did not protect you from pain before. It only made pain familiar before it arrived. It made you tired before the test. It made you bitter before the answer. Protection is not panic. Protection is boundaries. Protection is prayer. Protection is patience. Protection is choosing the truth even when your nervous system screams old stories. Protection is leaving the room before disrespect becomes normal. Protection is not inventing disrespect in every quiet room. There is balance. Learn it. Do not become naive. Do not become stone. Do not give your heart to everyone. Do not punish everyone because someone broke what they touched. A clean heart with boundaries is stronger than a closed heart pretending to be safe. The closed heart says, "Nobody can hurt me now." True, but nobody can reach you either. No joy, no mercy, no softness, just walls talking to walls. That is not victory. That is fear wearing a crown. Take the crown off fear. Put it where it belongs, under your feet. Not because you never feel it, but because you no longer obey every command it spits into your chest. Tonight, you are allowed to put the burden down. You are allowed to say, "I cannot solve what has not happened." You are allowed to close your eyes without rehearsing loss. You are allowed to trust God without having every answer printed in your hand.